the trap of being too nice and why it holds you back. There's a difference between being kind and being too nice. Kindness is strength rooted in love, integrity, and self-respect. But too nice is something else entirely. It's an unhealthy pattern where you silence your own needs, sacrifice your own dignity, and shrink your own potential just to avoid conflict or gain someone else's approval. And here's the truth. Being too nice doesn't make you more loved, more respected, or more valued. In fact, it often does the exact opposite. It traps you in cycles of exhaustion, disappointment, and unfulfillment. Many people confuse niceness with goodness. They think that if they just keep giving, keep saying yes, keep accommodating everyone else, somehow they'll earn a place in people's hearts. But what actually happens? People don't see you as valuable. They see you as available. They don't see you as strong. They see you as convenient. And the sad reality is, when you train people to expect you to always put their needs above your own, they start to take you for granted. They stop appreciating your sacrifice, and they start assuming it. That's not respect, that's exploitation. The trap of being too nice lies in this illusion that it will guarantee peace. You think that by avoiding conflict, by always keeping everyone happy, you'll create harmony. But the truth is, peace built on people-pleasing is not real peace, it's suppression. You swallow your frustrations, bury your desires, and pretend everything is fine, all while resentment quietly grows inside you. And eventually, it spills out, either in bitterness, in burnout, or in complete collapse of relationships. True peace cannot come from ignoring your own voice. It only comes when you live authentically, with courage and clarity about who you are and what you stand for. Let's get real about this. Being too nice doesn't make you strong. It makes you invisible. It causes you to blend into the background because you never stand for anything. You're always adjusting, always bending, always molding yourself into whatever makes others comfortable. And people can't respect what they can't define. They can't honor what they can't see. If you want people to recognize your value, you have to be willing to stand up for it. Niceness without boundaries is weakness. Kindness with courage is power. Why do so many fall into the trap of being too nice? Often it's rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen as selfish. Somewhere along the way, you may have been taught that your worth depends on how much you do for others. Maybe you were praised for being the good one, the one who never caused trouble, the one who always put others first. And without realizing it, you internalized this idea that being agreeable was your ticket to love. But let me tell you, love that has to be earned by constant self-sacrifice isn't love, it's dependency. And approval that comes only when you silence yourself isn't respect, it's control. Another reason people fall into this trap is because they underestimate their own value. When you don't truly believe you're enough as you are, you overcompensate by trying to please everyone else. You think, if I just give a little more, do a little more, bend a little more, then maybe I'll finally be accepted. But here's the truth, you will never be able to do enough for people who are committed to undervaluing you. No amount of niceness can fix their inability to appreciate your worth. The problem is not your effort, it's their perception. And the more you try to buy respect with kindness, the less they'll respect you. So what's the cost of being too nice? It robs you of your time, it drains your energy, it keeps you locked in relationships, jobs, and situations that do not serve you. It prevents you from pursuing your purpose because you're too busy managing other people's expectations. It keeps you playing small when you were designed to live big. And ultimately, it leaves you feeling unfulfilled because deep down, you know you're living for everyone else except yourself. But here's the turning point. The very moment you recognize the trap, you can choose to step out of it. You don't have to live your life enslaved to people's approval. You don't have to say yes when your spirit is screaming no. You don't have to give until there's nothing left of you. You can decide today to stop being the nice version of yourself and start being the real version of yourself. And let me be clear, the real you is still kind, still compassionate, still loving. But the real you also has standards, boundaries, and strength. The real you understands that kindness without self-respect is not kindness at all, it's compromise. When you stop being too nice, you will lose some things. You might lose people who only stayed in your life because you were convenient. You might lose relationships built on one-sided sacrifice. You might lose opportunities that required you to play small. But what you gain will be far greater. You'll gain self-respect. You'll gain clarity. You'll gain peace that's real, not fake. And most importantly, you'll gain the freedom to live your life aligned with your values, not everyone else's demands. The truth is, the world doesn't need you to be nice. The world needs you to be real. Real kindness comes with honesty. Real love comes with boundaries. Real respect comes when you're willing to say, this is who I am, and this is what I will and will not allow in my life. And when you show up like that, the people who matter will respect you more, not less. They will see your strength. They will value your presence. They will know that your yes means something because you're not afraid to say no. So stop falling for the trap of being too nice. Stop giving away your power for the illusion of approval. Stop silencing your voice in the name of harmony. Your worth is not determined by how agreeable you are. It's determined by the strength of your character, the clarity of your boundaries, and the courage of your convictions. Be kind, yes. Be compassionate, yes. But do not be so nice that you lose yourself in the process. Because the greatest gift you can give this world is not a watered-down version of you. It's the authentic, powerful, purpose-driven version of you. The difference between genuine kindness and weak people-pleasing. It's important to make something clear right away. Kindness is not weakness. In fact, true kindness requires immense strength. It takes courage to forgive when it would be easier to hold a grudge. It takes discipline to show love when bitterness would feel more natural. It takes inner security to give without expecting anything in return. That's strength. But what masquerades as kindness, what many people confuse it with, is weak people-pleasing. And the difference between the two is life-changing. Kindness flows from self-respect. People-pleasing flows from fear. When you are kind, you act out of love and integrity, not out of a desperate need for approval. You choose to do the right thing because it aligns with your character, not because you're terrified of rejection. A kind person can say yes, but they can also say no. Their actions come from strength, not from insecurity. But a people pleaser, their yes is almost automatic because their entire identity is tied to being needed, accepted, or liked. Think about it this way. Kindness is generous, but people-pleasing is manipulative. That might sound harsh, but it's true. When you're people-pleasing, you're not giving freely, you're giving conditionally. You're doing something for someone in hopes that they will give you validation in return. You're trying to control how they see you. It's not about them, it's about you. But when you're truly kind, you're giving without strings attached. You're not worried about how it will be received because your actions are rooted in your values, not in their approval. Here's another difference. Kindness respects boundaries, but people-pleasing ignores them. A kind person will help others, but not at the cost of neglecting their own health, time, or calling. They understand that self-care is not selfish, it's necessary. They give from overflow, not from depletion. But a people-pleaser, they'll run themselves into the ground just to keep someone else happy. They'll abandon their own needs and priorities to avoid disappointing others. And the result is resentment, bitterness, and burnout. One of the clearest signs of people-pleasing is the inability to say no. Have you noticed how difficult it feels sometimes to decline an invitation, turn down a request, or set a boundary? That anxiety you feel is not kindness, it's fear. It's the fear that if you say no, you'll lose someone's love, respect, or approval. But a kind person doesn't struggle with this in the same way, because they know that saying no to the wrong thing is what makes their yes to the right thing powerful. They know that not every demand deserves their energy. And here's the irony. The people you're trying to please don't actually respect you more when you bend over backwards for them. In fact, they often respect you less. Why? Because deep down, people respect boundaries, even if they don't admit it. They may not like being told no in the moment, but they admire someone who has the courage to stand firm. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. But when you people please, you teach them that your time, energy, and worth are negotiable. Let's dig deeper. Kindness produces peace, but people-pleasing produces frustration. When you're kind, you give from a place of freedom, and that leaves you at peace with your decisions. You don't walk away second-guessing yourself or feeling used. You know you did what was right, whether or not it was appreciated. But when you people-please, you walk away feeling drained. You start questioning, do they like me now? Was it enough? Will they accept me? That constant cycle of doubt keeps you anxious, never fulfilled. Another difference, kindness empowers, but people-pleasing enables. A kind person doesn't just give to make someone comfortable, they give in ways that strengthen, uplift, and empower others. They know that real love sometimes means saying hard truths, holding someone accountable, or letting them face the consequences of their actions. But people-pleasers, they don't want anyone to feel discomfort, even if that discomfort is the very thing that could help the person grow. So they smooth everything over, they avoid the hard conversations, and in doing so, they actually keep people stuck in their dysfunction. Here's a story that illustrates the difference. Imagine someone asks you to help them with a project at the last minute. A kind person, if their schedule allows, might say yes gladly because they value generosity. But if their schedule is already full and saying yes would mean breaking an important commitment or neglecting their own responsibilities, they'll respectfully say no. That's kindness with boundaries. A people pleaser, on the other hand, will say yes no matter what, then stay up all night stressed out, sacrificing their own well-being just to avoid disappointing the other person. And then they'll resent it afterward. See the difference? Now, let's be honest. Most people who struggle with people-pleasing aren't doing it because they love others too much. They're doing it because they don't love themselves enough. They don't trust their own worth, so they think they have to earn it by constantly serving others. But when you know your value, you don't have to beg for acceptance. You don't have to overextend yourself to feel significant. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to prove you're worthy. Your worth is already established. And once you internalize that truth, you can be kind without being used. The shift from people-pleasing to true kindness is not easy, but it's necessary. It means you'll have to start saying no more often. It means you'll have to get comfortable with disappointing people who were only around because you made their life convenient. It means you'll have to stop apologizing for having needs, desires, and limits. And yes, some people may walk away when you stop people-pleasing, but those aren't your people anyway. The ones who truly value you will stay, and they'll respect you more for it. At the core, here's the difference. People-pleasing is about control. Kindness is about freedom. People-pleasing tries to control how others see you. Kindness flows from being secure in who you are, regardless of what others think. People-pleasing is about fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being alone. Kindness is about love, love for yourself, love for others, love for truth. One keeps you small, the other allows you to live big. So ask yourself, are you being kind? Or are you just being nice? Are you giving from overflow, or are you draining yourself dry? Are you acting out of love, or are you acting out of fear? The answers to those questions will tell you whether you're walking in strength or trapped in weakness. And here's the challenge. Stop confusing your silence with peace. Stop confusing your compliance with love. Stop confusing your people-pleasing with kindness. Real kindness is powerful, bold, and honest. It stands tall, even when it's uncomfortable. It sets boundaries, even when it risks disapproval. It speaks truth, even when silence would be easier. That is the kind of kindness that transforms lives, yours and the lives of those around you. How to set boundaries without guilt. One of the most powerful skills you can ever develop in life is the ability to set boundaries without feeling guilty. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are doors that protect what matters most inside. Without boundaries, you will always feel stretched thin, resentful, and drained. With boundaries, you create order, clarity, and freedom, not just for you, but for everyone connected to you. Yet for so many people, the moment they even think about setting a boundary, guilt begins to rise. That guilt whispers lies. If I say no, they'll think I don't care. If I set limits, they'll leave me. If I protect my time, I'll look selfish. Those lies keep people trapped in cycles of overcommitment and resentment. But today, it's time to learn that boundaries are not selfish, they are essential. Think about it. Everything in life operates with boundaries. The ocean has a shore that keeps it from flooding the land. The body has skin that protects your organs. Even your house has walls and doors that separate what is yours from what is outside. Imagine living in a house with no doors you couldn't keep out intruders, weather, or chaos. That's what it's like, living without personal boundaries. People, demands, and distractions come in and out of your life at will, and you're left feeling invaded and powerless. Boundaries are the doors to your life. You decide who gets in, how long they stay, and how much space they occupy. The first step to setting boundaries without guilt is to shift your mindset. Boundaries are not about rejection, they are about direction. They are not a punishment, they are protection. When you say no to one thing, you are saying yes to something else that aligns with your values, your mission, and your well-being. For example, if you say no to working late every night, you're saying yes to spending quality time with your family, protecting your health, and preserving your energy for the next day. Boundaries redirect your energy toward what matters most. Here's what you have to realize. If you don't set boundaries, someone else will set them for you. And the boundaries they set will always benefit them, not you. They will take as much as you allow. And if you never draw a line, you'll find yourself living someone else's agenda instead of your own. That's why people who avoid boundaries in the name of being nice end up frustrated. They think they're keeping the peace, but in reality, they're just creating silent wars inside their own soul. Now let's talk about guilt. Why do so many feel guilty when they try to set boundaries? It's because they've been conditioned to believe their value comes from what they give others. If I'm always available, I'm valuable. If I never say no, I'm lovable. If I meet every demand, I'm worthy. That's the lie. The truth is, your worth doesn't come from people's approval, it comes from who you are. When you embrace that truth, guilt loses its grip. Let's make it practical. Here are a few strategies to set boundaries without guilt. Start with clarity. You cannot enforce what you haven't defined. Write down the areas in your life where you need boundaries, your time, your energy, your finances, your relationships. Get specific. For example, maybe you need to set a boundary around work emails after 7 p.m. Or maybe you need a boundary around how much money you lend to friends. Clarity gives you confidence. Communicate with respect, not apology. Too often, people try to soften their boundaries with over-apologizing. I'm so sorry, but I can't. Or, I hate to do this, but that's guilt talking. You don't have to apologize for protecting what matters. You can be kind but firm. I won't be available after 7 p.m., but I'll respond tomorrow morning. See the difference? Respectful, direct, but unapologetic. Expect resistance. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will be the ones most upset when you set them. That's normal. They're not used to the new you. Some will push back, guilt trip you, or even get angry. Don't let that shake you. Their reaction is not proof you're wrong, it's proof the boundary is working. Stay firm. Over time, the right people will adjust and the wrong people will fall away. Replace guilt with gratitude. Instead of feeling guilty for saying no, be grateful for what you're saying yes to. If you decline an invitation so you can rest, don't dwell on what they'll think. Focus on the energy you're preserving, the clarity you're gaining, and the future you're building. Gratitude shifts your perspective. Remember the bigger picture. Setting boundaries is not just about protecting yourself, it's about multiplying your impact. When you protect your time and energy, you can serve others better in the long run. Think of it like this. If you never recharge your phone, it eventually dies and helps no one. Boundaries are how you recharge your life. One of the most powerful things boundaries do is reveal who really values you. The people who only liked you because you were easy to use will fade when you stop being available for their convenience. And that's a blessing, not a loss. But the people who truly love and respect you will honor your boundaries, even if it takes adjustment. They'll recognize that your no makes your yes more meaningful. Let me put it another way. Boundaries are a test of both your strength and your relationships. If someone leaves you because you finally chose to value yourself, then they weren't invested in you, they were invested in what you could give them. That's a hard truth, but it's also liberating. Because once you know who's real, you can stop wasting energy on the wrong people and invest it in the right ones. Here's the deeper transformation. When you learn to set boundaries without guilt, you stop living life as a victim and start living as a leader. You stop being at the mercy of everyone else's demands, and you start steering your life with intention. You no longer operate from exhaustion, you operate from overflow. You no longer say yes out of fear, you say yes out of purpose. That's the difference between a life of survival and a life of significance. And here's the truth that will set you free. People respect boundaries even if they resist them. They may not say it, but deep down, they admire someone who knows their value and protects it. And as you practice boundaries consistently, you'll find that your confidence grows, your relationships improve, and your life feels lighter. So here's the challenge. The next time you feel guilt rising when you want to set a boundary, stop and ask yourself, am I being selfish or am I being a good steward of my life? 9 times out of 10, it's stewardship, not selfishness. Stewardship of your time, your energy, your calling, and your well-being. And when you steward your life well, you honor not just yourself, but everyone connected to you. Boundaries are love in action. Love for yourself, love for your future, and even love for others. Because when you protect your priorities, you can show up as your best self. So don't let guilt trick you into abandoning the very things that make you strong. Stand firm, protect your space, guard your energy. Your future depends on it. The power of silent growth. There's a kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself, a kind of progress that doesn't need applause, and a kind of growth that doesn't demand recognition. That strength is silent growth. Silent growth is when you choose to build, to transform, to elevate in the shadows while the world is distracted with noise. And here's the truth. The greatest transformations in life rarely happen in the spotlight. They happen in the quiet spaces where discipline, focus, and faith collide. The culture we live in has made noise the new currency. Everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to be heard. Social media has trained people to measure their worth by likes, comments, and followers. But here's the paradox. The people making the loudest noise often have the least depth. They're broadcasting progress they haven't truly earned, selling images they don't really live, promoting success that hasn't been built on a foundation. Silent growth flips that script. It's the decision to stop chasing validation and instead commit to transformation. Think about a seed. When a seed is planted in the ground, nobody sees it. It's covered in dirt, hidden away, pressed down by weight. But under that soil, life is stirring, roots are forming. Growth is happening in silence. And then one day, the seed breaks through the surface and everybody sees the plant. But by then, the roots are deep enough to sustain it. That's what silent growth looks like in your life. Nobody may see the hours you're studying, the nights you're praying, the mornings you're exercising, the discipline you're practicing. But all of that silent work is building roots that will sustain your success when it finally breaks through. The problem with chasing recognition is that it creates shallow roots. When you're more focused on looking successful than becoming successful, you set yourself up to crumble under pressure. But when you grow in silence, you don't need external applause to fuel you. You're anchored by internal conviction. That's why the quiet seasons of growth are the most important seasons of your life. They're where you build the strength that nobody can take away. Silent growth also protects you from unnecessary resistance. Sometimes, when you announce your dreams too early, you invite critics who will discourage you before you've even begun. You reveal your vision to people who can't see it, and instead of support, you get skepticism. And if you're not rooted enough, that skepticism can kill your dream before it matures. That's why it's often wiser to keep your goals close until they're strong enough to withstand opposition. Work in silence. Let your results speak when the time is right. Now, let's talk about discipline. Silent growth is powered by daily, consistent discipline. It's the hours you put in when nobody is watching, the sacrifices you make when nobody is clapping, the battles you fight when nobody even knows you're struggling. Silent growth is built in the moments when you want to quit but choose to keep going anyway. Those moments don't make headlines, but they make history in your own life. Because by the time the world notices your progress, the discipline has already become a part of you. One of the greatest benefits of silent growth is the humility it develops. When you learn to grow without needing recognition, you free yourself from the trap of ego. You stop living to impress others and start living to fulfill your purpose. You no longer need people to validate your journey because you know your worth isn't tied to their applause. That humility keeps you grounded when success finally comes. Because make no mistake, success will come. The harvest always follows the planting. But humility ensures that success doesn't destroy you. Let's make it practical. How can you cultivate silent growth in your own life? First, identify the areas where you've been too focused on appearances and not enough on substance. Are you posting about progress instead of actually making progress? Are you telling people about your goals more than you're working on them? Shift your energy from presentation to preparation. Second, commit to private disciplines that nobody else sees. Maybe it's waking up earlier to study. Maybe it's saving money when everybody else is spending. Maybe it's working out without posting about it. These small, unseen disciplines compound over time and create visible transformation. Third, protect your vision in its early stages. Don't broadcast your plans to people who don't share your faith or your values. Not everybody is meant to know what you're building. Some people can only see what's in front of them, not what's possible. So stop trying to convince them. Protect your dream until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Finally, trust the process. Silent growth takes time. It's not flashy and it's not fast, but it's lasting. The seed doesn't become a tree overnight, but when it does, it provides shade, fruit, and strength for generations. That's what your life can become if you're willing to grow in silence. Let's be real. Silent growth isn't easy. It requires patience in a world addicted to speed. It requires humility in a culture obsessed with recognition. It requires faith when nobody else can see what you're working on. But it's worth it. Because when your moment comes, you won't need to explain yourself. Your results will speak louder than any words could. Here's the beautiful paradox. Silence doesn't mean insignificance. Just because the world doesn't see your growth doesn't mean it's not happening. In fact, the most important growth always happens in the hidden places. Muscles don't grow in the gym, they grow in the recovery, in the rest, in the quiet rebuilding of cells. Trees don't grow in storms, they grow in the slow, silent process of roots drinking water and branches stretching toward light. And people don't grow in applause, they grow in discipline, in faith, in perseverance when nobody else is watching. So embrace silent growth. Stop looking for approval. Stop needing to broadcast every step. Stop measuring your progress by how many people notice. Instead, measure it by how consistent you've been, how faithful you've remained, how much stronger your roots are today than they were yesterday. Because here's the promise. If you're faithful in silence, you'll be fruitful in the spotlight. If you stay disciplined when nobody sees, you'll be unstoppable when everybody does. If you commit to growth without recognition, you'll eventually reach a level of success that can't be denied. Silent growth is not about hiding forever. It's about preparing deeply so that when your moment comes, you're not just ready, you're unshakable. So don't despise the quiet seasons. Don't resent the hidden years. They are not wasted, they are preparation. Silent growth is your secret weapon. It's the power that takes ordinary people and builds extraordinary lives. Stay planted, stay disciplined, stay faithful. One day, the world will see the fruit, but until then, let the silence shape you into the person capable of carrying the success you're destined for. Success speaks louder than words. There comes a point in life when talking is no longer necessary, when explanations are no longer required, and when debates are no longer worth your energy. That point is when your success speaks for itself. Success has a voice that cuts through doubt, criticism, and resistance. It doesn't argue, it doesn't beg for validation, it doesn't need to prove itself. Success simply shows up, and when it does, it silences everything else. We live in a culture that rewards noise. People are quick to talk about what they're going to do, quick to post about their goals, quick to announce their dreams. Yet most of that talk never materializes into reality. Words are easy, execution is hard. But here's the truth, when you stop wasting time explaining yourself and instead channel that energy into building, your results will tell the story. People can argue with your words, but they can't argue with your fruit. Think about the people who doubted you, the ones who dismissed you, the ones who told you it couldn't be done. They laughed, they criticized, they said you weren't capable, and maybe for a season, their voices got inside your head. Maybe their disbelief made you question yourself. But here's what changes everything. When you commit to doing the work day in and day out, eventually the same people who mocked you will be forced to respect you. They don't have to like you. They don't have to support you. But they cannot deny the evidence of success. Success is undeniable. You don't have to convince people you've grown when they see the new life you're living. You don't have to tell them you've changed when your habits, your mindset, and your results speak louder than any explanation. Success shuts the mouths of critics without you ever saying a word. It's proof that cannot be refuted. But here's the important part. Success that speaks loudly is never built overnight. It's the result of consistent, disciplined, silent effort stacked over time. It's the hours you invested when no one was watching, the sacrifices you made when nobody cared, the resilience you showed when it would have been easier to quit. Success doesn't shout in the beginning, it whispers. It whispers in the small habits you repeat daily, the mindset shifts you commit to, the boundaries you enforce, the vision you protect, and eventually those whispers grow into a roar that no one can ignore. The key to letting success speak louder than words is to stop chasing approval. Too many people waste energy trying to convince others of their worth. They defend themselves, argue back, explain endlessly, hoping that one day the doubters will believe in them. But why waste that energy? You don't owe explanations to anyone who isn't contributing to your journey. Stop defending and start producing. Stop explaining and start executing. Let your results do the talking. Here's the truth. People forget what you say, but they cannot ignore what you build. You don't remember every motivational speech you've ever heard, but you remember the person who showed you by example what was possible. That's the power of lived success. It imprints itself on people's minds far more deeply than words ever could. And don't miss this. When success speaks, it doesn't just silence critics, it inspires believers. Your success becomes evidence that someone else's dream is possible. When you rise, you give others permission to rise. When you break through, you show others what breakthrough looks like. When you succeed, you become a living testimony that effort, faith, and persistence pay off. That's why success, speaking louder than words, isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about proving to yourself and to others that greatness is within reach. Now, let's talk about patience. One reason people give up too soon is because they want their success to shout instantly. But true success whispers before it shouts. It comes quietly, in small wins. You lose a few pounds before people notice the transformation. You save a little money before your wealth becomes visible. You grow a little stronger in silence before anyone sees the strength. And then one day, it all compounds, and what was invisible becomes undeniable. Success was speaking the whole time, you just didn't recognize its voice yet. So how do you build a life where success speaks for you? First, master your discipline. Success is a byproduct of consistency, not once in a while, not only when you feel motivated, but every single day. Success loves discipline more than talent. Talent can talk, but only discipline produces results that last. Second, protect your focus. Stop scattering your energy on people, places, and projects that don't align with your purpose. Every yes to distraction is a no to destiny. Focus builds momentum, and momentum builds success. Third, embrace delayed gratification. Don't expect instant applause. The harvest always comes later than the planting. Plant faithfully, water consistently, and trust that your season of recognition will come at the right time. Fourth, resist the urge to broadcast everything prematurely. Not every step needs to be announced. Let people see the fruit, not just the seeds. Let them experience the impact, not just the intention. Finally, stay grounded when success does come, because here's the danger. Success that speaks louder than words will attract attention, and with attention comes temptation. Temptation to get lazy, to get arrogant, to stop growing. But if your success is built on silent growth and humble discipline, you'll remain rooted. You won't need to prove anything. You'll simply keep producing. Remember this, the loudest people are rarely the most successful, and the most successful people are rarely the loudest. The people making the greatest impact don't waste time shouting about it. They're too busy building. And because they build, their success speaks in a voice that echoes long after words are forgotten. So let this be your reminder. Stop arguing with critics. Stop explaining yourself to doubters. Stop wasting energy on people who don't believe in you. Channel all of that into becoming undeniable. Build a life so strong, so fruitful, so impactful that your success becomes your language. Let your growth silence the noise. Let your results tell your story. Let your transformation be your testimony. Because at the end of the day, words fade, opinions shift, critics come and go, but success, real, undeniable, earned success will always speak for itself. And when it speaks, the whole world will have no choice but to listen.